Hello, and welcome to our video on minerals. What is a mineral? Minerals are inorganic elements that are not produced by our bodies and therefore should be obtained from our diet. They are needed in small quantities, and because of this, they are considered micronutrients. In order to maintain proper health, we must ensure that we are consuming an appropriate amount of minerals by eating a balanced diet. These molecules are water-soluble, but unlike vitamins, they are not absorbed as easily. The absorption of some minerals influences the absorption of another, and some vitamins help with the absorption of certain minerals. For example, vitamin C helps with the absorption of iron. Minerals are generally divided into two categories, depending on how much is needed for proper body function. Those categories are macro or major minerals and micro or trace minerals. Macrominerals are minerals that are needed in amounts greater than 100 milligrams per day. There are 7 macrominerals: sodium, chloride, potassium, which are considered electrolytes and are needed for proper fluid balance, calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium, which are needed for bone health, and sulfur, which is required for protein making. Sodium is required for proper fluid balance, the transmission of nerve impulses, and muscle contraction. This mineral is found in a lot of food sources and is found in large amounts in processed and prepared foods. In the United States, most individuals have no problem meeting the recommended sodium intake, which is approximately 1,500 milligrams per day. In fact, given the dietary choices of most Americans, the recommended daily sodium intake is on average doubled daily. Given this, suffering from sodium deficiency is very rare. However, conditions such as hypertension, which are associated with excess sodium in our system, are a concern. Chloride is also needed for proper fluid balance and nerve transmission, and since it's a component of hydrochloric acid, it also aids with digestion. Given that salt contains not only sodium but also chloride, it becomes the main source of chloride intake in diets. Just as with sodium, chloride deficiency is rare, since salt consumption in America is relatively high. Potassium is the third of the minerals that fall under the electrolyte category. This mineral is present in every tissue in the body, and like the previously discussed electrolytes, it's also needed for fluid balance, nerve transmission, and muscle contraction. Fruits and veggies, as well as dairy and meat, are good potassium sources. Unlike sodium and chloride, the average potassium intake is generally below the recommended amount. Given its role in fluid balance, potassium deficiency is associated with blood pressure problems and kidney stones, and it increases the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Calcium is the most abundant mineral in the body, since it is one of the major components of bone tissue. In addition to bone health, calcium is needed for muscle contraction and nerve transmission, as well as the regulation of blood pressure and hormone secretion. Calcium can be obtained from dairy, as well as fortified foods and some greens. Calcium homeostasis is critical for proper body function. Inadequate amounts of calcium can cause continuous muscle contraction, tetany, or osteopenia, low bone mass, which can lead to osteoporosis. Phosphorus is right behind calcium in terms of abundance, and just like calcium, it's stored in the bones. Phosphorus also plays an important role as a component of nucleic acids, DNA, and RNA. This mineral also regulates enzyme activity and cell signaling. Phosphorus is abundant in many food sources, including meat, fish, poultry, dairy products, potatoes, and whole grains. The average intake of phosphorus is above the recommended dietary allowance, which is 700 milligrams per day. Magnesium also plays a role in bone health and is also stored in the skeleton. Magnesium plays an important role in the synthesis of carbohydrates, lipids, and nucleic acids, and it's important for proper muscle contraction and nerve conduction. This mineral can be obtained from leafy greens, nuts, potatoes, dairy, and meats. Chocolate, coffee, and hard water are also good sources of magnesium. Sulfur is an integral component of proteins, and not surprisingly, can be obtained from protein-rich foods, such as meats, poultry, fish, nuts, and dairy. Trace minerals are minerals that are needed in amounts less than 100 milligrams per day. There are 9 trace minerals needed for adequate body function: iron, copper, zinc, selenium, iodine, chromium, fluoride, manganese, molybdenum. Even though these minerals are needed in smaller quantities, inadequate amounts of these minerals can cause severe detriment to our health. Of the trace minerals, iron is the one needed in the highest amount, about 15 milligrams per day. Iron is essential for oxygen transport. It is an essential component of hemoglobin and myoglobin. It can be obtained from red meats, fish, and poultry. Enriched grains and dark greens are also good sources of iron. Decreased iron levels can lead to anemia, while an excess of iron can lead to tissue damage. Copper is involved in helping us maintain our energy levels, proper brain development, and connective tissue formation. It is recommended that we ingest between 1.5 and 3.0 milligrams per day. Shellfish and whole grains are good sources of copper. Selenium is a structural component of a number of proteins involved in thyroid metabolism, reproduction, and DNA synthesis. It serves as an antioxidant and has a role in immune protection. Seafood and organ meats are high in selenium. The minerals also found in soil, and therefore crops, are also pretty decent sources of it. Selenium deficiency is rare, but toxicity can lead to gastrointestinal problems, bad breath, irritability, brittle nails and hair, and skin rashes. The recommended dietary allowance for this mineral is about 60 micrograms per day. Zinc is mostly obtained from foods that are good protein sources, as well as vegetables and whole grains. Zinc is a cofactor for many enzymes. It helps make nucleic acids, aids in the release of vitamin A, helps metabolize alcohol, and aids with the synthesis of heme. Its recommended dietary allowance is about 15 milligrams per day. Iodine intake should average about 150 micrograms a day. This mineral plays a very important role in the production of thyroid hormones, which in turn play a role in the regulation of body temperature and metabolic rate. A deficiency of iodine can generate weight gain and sluggishness and hypothyroidism. Chromium is needed for lipid metabolism and can be obtained from fruits, vegetables, nuts, and wine. Its recommended intake is about 100 micrograms per day. Fluoride is needed for bone and dental health, and it can be found in trace amounts in most foods. The ingestion of too much fluoride can cause abdominal pain, nausea, and diarrhea, as well as discoloration of the teeth. The adequate intake for fluoride is about 3 to 4 milligrams. Manganese is recommended in amounts of 2 to 5 milligrams per day. This mineral can be found in most foods and is required as a cofactor for a variety of enzymes. The final trace mineral is molybdenum. This mineral can be obtained from some legumes, whole grains, and dairy products, as well as beef and chicken. The recommended dietary allowance is 45 micrograms per day. This mineral plays a role in the breakdown of drugs, alcohol, and other toxins within the body. A healthy diet is the best way to meet our daily recommended intake for each of the minerals required for proper body function. Supplements should never substitute a balanced diet, but they can be used in special circumstances as long as the individual understands that there might be interactions with certain medications and has cleared with his or her doctor the consumption of such manufactured chemicals. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.